Dr. Kelly Starrett is a dear friend of mine and a superstar on so many levels. He's a coach, physical therapist, author, speaker, and co-founder of the San Francisco CrossFit, one of the first 25 CrossFit gyms or boxes in the world. He's also the co-founder of MobilityWOD and nonprofit StandUpKids. Kelly has more than 150,000 hours of training under his belt. He's trained every single branch of the military, pro ballers in the NBA, NFL, and NHL. And the list goes on and on and on and on. His clients also include Laird Hamilton, Tim Ferris, and that list goes on too. I'm so lucky to be amongst just one of the many people that Kelly has touched. Physically, mentally, and spiritually. He's taught me so much, not only about how to work out right and not get injured, but many spiritual lessons on how to be intellectually stimulating when you work out. I love how Kelly opens up about his sordid childhood, his love for his children and wife, his anxieties, and yes, where he got the name Supple Leopard. And he also talks about his love life.
I was a single child of a single working mother who had struggled to get her PhD, put herself through, right? We were broke. I mean, like, I remember Christmas where I was never wanting, right? Yeah. But we had $5. We got a donated tree, couldn't afford lights, made our own instrument. I was loved, fine. But money was always a stress. Yeah. And we would go to dinner and my mom would be like, I hope we have enough money. And I'd be like, what? We just got pizza? Hope we have enough money? So now I have all these funny quirks. One is not running out of gas. I always like to have a full tank of gas. It makes me feel safe. Yeah. So I'll always get gas. Yeah. Number two is whenever I get a burrito, I always get a spare burrito. So I have a burrito to go. And even if I don't need it, I just know I have it. So I always have 2 burritos.
So what do you do with it if you don't eat it? Just you have an extra?
I have an extra burrito.
Okay, so you already made me cry in the first second, but because...
But it's part of this conversation with Juliet and I about moving from sort of scarcity mindset,
yes,
where we work our asses off,
yes,
because we're so afraid to, getting ahead and realize, hey, now we're okay.
To the abundance mindset.
Yeah.
And I told Juliet, I said, you know what? The cool thing about this box is it's a space or a container, a holding place for us to make connections, mind, body, spirit, personally,
it's not a joke.
Professionally, spiritually, whatever. And we talk about being present and being thankful for our lives all the time, and it reminds me of this, not to be cheesy and coin Oprah, but I'll always coin Oprah and Adele. But anyway, with Oprah, she was interviewing Tony Robbins, right? And I remember him saying to her, and this was baffled me that he was going through this at this stage and this stage of success in his life. He was like, yeah, we had booked the biggest arena, and it was our biggest talk, and I was telling my team, where's the next big one? Where's the next big one? And you know what? He was like, I was stealing that moment away from me, stealing it away from my employees and the people that work with me.
Check this out. We put out the first edition of Supple Leopard.
Wait, by the way, one of my favorite things about this book is this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Juliet.
Oh yeah. The original edition, I made homage to my girls, but the second edition was straight up for J-Star. She's the best. But I had written Supple Leopard, and we make the New York Times. It's going crazy, right? We can see how it's going to change our lives, yes, right? And we filled a need, right? And the response is amazing. And I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, what if this is all I've done, Juliet? What if I peaked? What if I don't have anything else to say? And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know. What's wrong with me? And it was that mindset of that, hey, what's the next piece?
Yes.
And it was, so much, I think I had a ton of baggage from my family. My family is status oriented, and it was always the next and the next.
Many families
and I think that's the stress, the stress of which they grew up. And it really, being content, being happy, being bored, not worried about how I'm going to beat, and the next thing. It's taken work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. So many of our friends who are changing the world or doing interesting work or killing it, they all have some trauma.
Yes.
And that Juliet would probably talk about the fact that, she had similar circumstances growing up, and so she became a type A go-getter, yes, right? Everything's okay, and then thyroid cancer when she's 20, and right, all these things change.
Placenta previa.
So for me,
stuff,
I was able to dissociate better than anyone else. Like I just take the stress and I'd be like, shh, got it, next thing, like I got this. And I would just lie to myself about the level of stress. Like more stress that I'd get, I'd be like, I should probably take a nap right now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and now
aloof,
I've
not
been
dealing
working,
with
yeah, well, just dissociating, just putting it down. And now, after really working hard on trying to be a better man, better father, better, and you just, you know, talk about, we always talk about constraining the environment so that you don't have to make a choice. The choice is there made for you, right? And, you know, because, you know, it's so difficult. People are managing so many aspects of their lives and really struggling, I think, to have meaningful relationships.
Make money, take care of their family.
The whole thing. It's a lot, right? And it doesn't have, I mean, it shouldn't be a lot, right? But it's a lot. And so we're always saying, hey, let's make it so you don't have to make one less choice, right? Let's get it. So, you know, when we set up around, the point is that I got to a place where we're trying to make it so that I can feel my feelings a lot more.
And be here.
Right? And be here.
Be present.
And that now I feel anxiety.
Yeah.
Like my that defense mechanism, which literally allowed me to stand up, write books, stand in front of thousands of people, do my talk, like that didn't serve me later on. And I really had to sort of backtrack and say, okay, this was a defense mechanism that got me here, but now it's not serving anymore. And that, I mean, having a wife, partner, and so now I got a big talk. The night before, I'm like, wow, what's this feeling? I'm like, that's anxiety.
Yeah.
You know,
You know what's funny about that is that I always tell people that, because I do motivational speaking for a living, and you do quite a bit of speaking yourself, and people always say, are you nervous? And my niece taught me this, my niece Serena. She, on the first day of kindergarten, my sister said, Serena, sissy, are you nervous to go to kindergarten? She goes, Mama, I'm nervous-sided.
Nervous-sided.
Right? So nervous and excited, like the amalgam of those two words. And I think that for me, when I am speaking in front of people, I take my ego out of the way, and I'm like, I'm not gonna worry if they're gonna judge me if my belly fat's sticking out or if I'm, you know, if I look a certain way or whatever. I'm just gonna think about, listen, I'm up here because I have something important to share that's gonna make your life better, and I'm here to serve you.
Well, you know, when you talk about people, say, you know, when they categorize most stressful events, you know, speaking in front of people is one of the things that makes people so anxious. But
Number one,
that's
people are most scared about.
That's a scaled up version of having a difficult conversation with your mom or your boss or your coworker or your friend, of saying, you know, this is not working for me. And we haven't empowered people to, it's okay to feel anxious and still act on it. You know, we are working with our daughters on, you know, dissociating anxiety, because that's a normal expression from nervousness. Hey, I'm feeling anxious, but you're prepared, right? So that anxious, nervous-sided is a really great way of saying that, hey, it's okay to be anxious because I want to do well and I don't know the outcome. And we know anxiety increases performance. Like if you aren't a little anxious, you actually can't perform at your best. You need that anxiety for a little arousal.
Maybe I need to be more anxious. But, you know, the anxious feeling that I got here, and I am so glad, thank God, that I took this risk, because Juliet talks a lot about, you know, you just have to take risks, and risk doesn't mean you have to jump off of a plane in a parachute.
That's a way of taking a risk.
Yes, do something different that's outside of your box. And literally, when I would walk past here, I told Juliet I was scared shitless, and that's the truth. I was like, oh my God, all these people are ripped. It looks like a Hunger Games training ground. I'm scared. I wasn't even scared, I was scared. But I was just held my breath one day. I came in and I just signed up, and it changed my life.
Well, it's allegory for unknown. So, you know, I think one of the things that we're getting terribly wrong today is that we don't belong to a tribe anymore. Our tribe is online, right? And that's not the same thing. And I think we can have a side of the conversation about Instagram, Facebook, as really messing up with what we think is beautiful, with
personal connection,
lies, like just we're always presented with the sort of this fake reality, right? And it's
curated reality.
that's right. And we have a friend. Maybe Juliet mentioned this, but we have a friend who stopped reading Sunset magazine because she was like, topiary giraffes are never good enough. Like, and I have the wrong spread, and I have don't have the right succulents. But she really felt
linens aren't as nice.
That's right. It's only a 900 spread, count thread. And so literally, you know, what we're seeing today more and more is that, you know, church has changed, community has changed, and people just don't belong to each other and aren't given a reason to belong to each other. And the unknown a little bit is this lack of personal connection. It looks like there's a dense tribe here. the magic of this is just showing up and being a community. And I think, one of the things we talk about here is that this may be the only time where people get any unconditional positive regard in a whole day. And this even came where, we get to do a lot of interesting work and people give us a lot of positive feedback. But one time a few years ago, Juliet said, hey, in a single day, you'll get more positive feedback about your work than I did as an attorney in an entire year.
Wow.
And I think that's really metaphor and allegory for what the average person is feeling. They don't get feedback of accomplishment. And this is why you can see high intensity small group training has really mattered. Soul Cycle, Belong, I Suffer. We have this communal experience. You look at Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe, coming back from war and PTSD, you look at sort of the dissolution of some of these traditional communities, and you're seeing that people are alone and really struggling to have sense of meaning. And then it really is, once you understand that, so taking risks can be, I'm going to go introduce myself to that person I've seen 10 times.
Which is one of the things I love so much about our box here is that, and I've traveled to many different boxes, and they're always like, ooh, Kelly, Juliet, the Starrett, you train with them? Isn't that a beautiful box? And they kind of like fangirl about you guys. Like, I do, because this is my fit fam. This is like my tribe. And one thing I love so much about what you guys do is everybody is seen here, I feel like, because just before a WOD starts or a workout of the day, you guys are like, hey, what's wrong with you? You haven't said hi to, you tell one of the regulars to say hi to somebody that you don't know. And it's just become a habit. Walk through the door, oh, where are you from? Oh, hey,
that's right.
You're from Colombia? Oh, and then
that's exactly right.
It's like a fit fam here.
Well, and you give a chance, now it can be vulnerable. You've initiated. One of our good friends is Gabby Reese. She's this volleyball player.
Yes. Just this volleyball player.
Right,
yeah,
superstar, amazing woman. And Gabby does this thing, she's like, I make it my personal mission to go first. Because I have the awareness. So 2 carts are going down the grocery store, Gabby moves.
Oh, that's powerful.
She says, I go first. I introduce myself first. I say sorry first. Like, that's what I do. And she's made an ethos so that it's practice and it's habit. And when you come up through here, and the expectation is that every single person is met, and that, it's amazing. So whenever I give a big talk, it doesn't matter where I go. So, we used to give a couple big talks in Europe when we were there, and a couple thousand people. And the first thing I do to own the room, because it's about me, it's about the psychology of groupthink and winning and owning the room and the moving back and forth and playing all the games, right? Yeah. Owning stagecraft.
Presence.
I make everyone stand up and introduce themselves to the people around them.
Ooh, I like that.
Every single time. And the reason is that people are in this,
confined space.
Right, and there's this formal sort of codex around how I behave, and what I do is give them permission to break that wall.
I love that.
The 5th wall is broken. I talk off camera all the time because it breaks that wall, and people are like, oh, I'm part of this conversation. So I give people permission, and now secretly I've owned everyone. The tension comes down, the expectation comes down. So they're meeting people, and all of a sudden, people's positive association, because they met the people around them, and they suddenly have this camaraderie and this experience. And I think that's what we're missing.
That's what you're building here.
Well, this is what we've done for the last 12 years, is predicated. I started shaking hands because that's what I did when I was teaching kayaking. I made everyone understand, because I'm like, hey, we're going to need each other, so we might as well break through that barrier now. Yeah. And it works here. It works. It's easier.
This is what I love about you and Juliet so much, personally as friends, and then also as you being my coach, and just being one of the members here at CrossFit, is that there's a presence. Not only like when you walk in the room, there's a presence, but being present to people around you. And to me, the people that are geniuses, I think my definition of that is you see patterns and you're just aware. So I feel like all your businesses, from MobilityWOD to the books you've written to everything, that StandUpKids, I feel like you were trying to solve this. Hey, I'm going to solve this problem. I just really want to help. And you really didn't have this like grandiose business plan all mapped out, and you were trying to be something.
Well, you tap onto a couple things. One is the pattern recognition. I think sometimes we don't do a good job of recognizing people are really, really smart. And they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And the brilliant people and the work that these brilliant people do all around us, artists, musicians, scientists, entrepreneurs, I'm blown away. I'm like, wow, these people are, I'm a dullard at how creative and talented. And sometimes what we've failed to do is realize that someone else has already solved this problem. And so all the reading I do isn't in my field at all. around physical therapy or performance. I read in business, and I read in science, and where I'm spending all my time right now is complexity theory, which is
for people that don't know,
which is really looking at the science of complex systems. And what I think one of the problems that we're seeing, for example, is that the internet has changed this flood of information about health. We've commoditized wellness, right? It's a gimmick, it's something you buy. I mean, my Instagram feed is confusing, my Facebook advertising, I'm like, people,
Mine is too. I'm a
they're
little
selling
bit of
me, they're
scatterbrained
selling me
everywhere.
everything. It's, people drinking gluten-free vodka, not eating the hamburger bun,
Yes.
and doing Olympic lifts. I mean, that's what it looks like. Take this turmeric, and and I think people are really struggling for some consilience, this organization of holistic model. What's sustainable? And what's happening right now is we're selling people a slice of the solution, and then it doesn't work. And so a lot of what we're doing in complexity theory, we can take from, for example, software. There's a concept in software called the klug or the kludge. And what that is it's where you have an old piece of software, and then it works well enough. And then you keep bootstrapping other pieces of software on top of it, right? That are integrated with that system. And so subsequently, you have this really ugly, unwieldy piece of software that's based on this old, outdated, inefficient piece that you cannot pull out because the whole system is predicated on. We saw that at the turn of the century, when 2000 came around, we thought it was everything was going to fail, right? The failure around the clocks,
Year
right?
2000, yep.
So we take that model now, so we have a system that works, but it's not elegant, right? It's redacted, and what we're seeing is people's concept of fitness and wellness is that klug. They don't have a through point. I was just in Toronto teaching, and I was talking with a woman who was head of a small group training at a big gym chain. She used to teach Zumba, and they were talking about Zumba, and I was like, Zumba has nothing to do with fitness. And she was like, what? Whoa, what are you talking about? And I know Alberto, I know Beto, these are the founders of Zumba, they're geniuses. But I was like, let's prioritize why this works. One, you have people dancing together in the same room, sharing. You have mimicking mirror neurons. You get this unconditional positive regard. People are moving for an hour, right? And I was like, then you're breathing hard. Then, right, you know what I mean? As a side effect of all of these things, the reason Zumba is effective is not because it's a great workout. That's the least of the reasons, right? But people are really confused about, hey, you need to be in community. You need to belong to a group of people. You need to be, when you say I'm going to show up at 4 o'clock class, I'm like, I'll be there. And then you're like, you didn't show up at 4 o'clock class.
So many people tell me that about Roop's handstand class.
That's
One
right.
of my favorite classes.
So it's important to understand, first and foremost, I think we need to give people a reason to get together. Then we need to simplify their fitness to them. Juliet and I are so extreme now, and we have worked in every professional sport, in every elite military group, in every university. The amount of stuff I've seen is insane. But if you're like, Kelly, elite fitness, I'm like, you should walk a lot. You should sleep a lot. You should eat a lot of plants.
Yes.
Right? You should have some way to chill out at night.
Yes.
And then we can talk about what's next.
Yes.
Right? To drink some water today, then everything else is bullshit if you haven't.
This first takeaway is all about risk-taking and self-care. Think about that for a second. There's something to be said about being fearless and a risk taker, but at the same time, being mindful about self-care and finding what works for you to balance yourself personally and professionally and spiritually. And also, Kels talks about finding a community. And CrossFit, something that I did not expect starting CrossFit, was that I would find my own Fit Fam community there. I mean, you think you go out there to work out, but as we talk about in this episode, they do something very unique at this box. They make us introduce ourselves to newcomers so that you feel like you're a part of the family. I was so surprised as a CrossFitter that I made so many awesome lifelong friends. And think about this. I made so many connections with people, but I also made so many connections about myself. And we talk about that a lot in this episode. I want you to think about what you're doing in your life to feel connected to your mind and your body and your spirit. And if you're not feeling a connection, I think it's time for a truth check. And now back to the conversation. Did you apply that theory to the bootstrapping theory, the whole complex theory, to when you first started CrossFit? Because you guys started way back in the day when nobody knew what CrossFit. You were one of the first 25, 27 CrossFit boxes, right? Yeah. And so
when I started CrossFit, there was 5.
5, wow. So to take that risk, you must be crazy. But then again, you guys did whitewater rafting, national champions. And
the risk...
The risk thing is interesting to me.
So I see two things happening. One is that we're talking about risk taking, right? Being uncomfortable. Let's say not risk taking, but choosing to be uncomfortable. One of the things that we know is that is a practiced experience. So one of the things that happens when you're in a coached environment, and that even is going to yoga class. Like forget Olympic lifting, let's go to yoga class. When you follow a yoga teacher, you're not sure what you're going to get today. You have to show up and be vulnerable and present and be taught,
and
right?
Be on the mat,
and
in your body.
The teacher is seeing what's going on and programming appropriately, right? This is why these learned environments, yoga is not going to go away, shouldn't go away. Pilates is one of the few sort of taught environments where people actually are getting instruction about how their bodies move, and they follow a teacher. So when we, growing up, I paddled class 5. I didn't drink as a kid. I had 5 generations of alcoholics in my family.
Wow.
I didn't drink. I didn't have a drink until I was almost 22.
Wow.
And but what I did was scare the crap out of myself regularly. I jumped off of every cliff. I went as fast as I could. I kayaked. I mean, I literally was like, if I can scare myself, I'm in. Right? That was like my thing. Like I really like to be scared. And then all of a sudden we started adding that into a little bit more of adult maturity. Like the first time I was responsible for a group of adults, I was 14 years old, and I was teaching whitewater kayaking. And I was now responsible that these adults go have a good time, that I'm teaching them a complex skill, and
that they don't die.
They don't die or get hurt. Right? That's a huge responsibility when you're 14, right? So now fast forward. All of this kind of practice risk taking. I paddle on the U.S. canoe and kayak team. I paddle on the U.S. whitewater team. The amount of I paddled in the World Cup, being scared, taking risks, being responsible, practice. And so when we got to here, I remember literally being in physical therapy school. I'm in this doctoral program, and it's the first big practical exam. And all the 21-year-old kids are crapping themselves. They've come out of college, they haven't even traveled. I'm sure some of them are virgins, that they've never voted in an election, and I'm like, and they are crapping themselves. And they're like, aren't you nervous? And I was like,
no.
Remember the World Cup?
Yeah.
Remember when I swam and almost drowned? I'm like, that scared me. That prepared me for this. And it's interesting because what Juliet has gone to these universities and talked to big groups of women. She's like, you already have the skills. You show up, you have discipline, you compete. You have to compete. You have to show up at a certain time and do something. She's like, it's your failure to take all of this experience and actually reapply it that's a problem.
Interesting.
So when we found CrossFit, I had the same experiences around anxiety. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I'm capable enough. And I did that every day. And I died a small death every day of fear because I wasn't sure I could do it.
Wow.
I wasn't sure I had the abilities, right? I wasn't sure. And what I recognized right away, I was like, wow, I'm practicing and codifying being uncomfortable as a matter of something I need to do anyway. Then we are able to layer in the pattern recognition, and we started to see the movement components, the environment, the load, the community, and it's the same pattern over and over again of risk taking.
So how do you take that fear and channel it to something good versus people do commit suicide, people binge eat, people, do negative things?
Well, one of the things that I think we do a bad job of potentially is when, we'll talk about pain, for example. A lot of times people are really afraid of pain. And we say, don't do this because it'll cause pain, right? Don't do this because you'll get cancer. Don't do this because you'll die. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm even guilty of this sometimes when I talk to my kids. I'm like, get down from there. Yeah. Now I'm like, I think you might think about getting down there because I'm concerned that if you flip, you're going to die, right? Or you're going to really injure yourself. And then my kids are like, oh, okay, I can understand why you're scared. Okay, Dad.
Instead of just yelling at them.
So how do we, systematize in a way and get people doing the right thing without always making a fear-based economy? So what we do instead is focus on outcomes. How do we perform? How do we improve your performance? How do we improve your relationships? How do we take all this low-hanging fruit and think about loss function? So posture is a great example. The dirtiest, who cares, posture language, right? Posture is just a prissy word for position. Yeah. But if I can say, let's slouch down for a second, okay? So forget the fact that I'm reading your language is disinterested and right, all that. Yeah. But take a breath for me there, right? Yeah. Now, take a breath. So I'm like, hey, let's think about, right, so I've just improved your ability to mechanically ventilate, right? Just the efficiency of how much air you can move in and out. But all we did was say, hey, this position gives you more options. This position allows for increased function of the human being. And when we start showing people that they can lead better lives, you don't have to sell anything. If I say, do this so you don't tear your ACL, people don't give a crap.
Ooh, that's good. For takeaway 2, let's think about what Kelly just said about channeling your fear into something good. Channeling your fear into something good. And using that fear to help you move forward instead of letting it paralyze you. So hold up, how scary is it to start something that is unknown, especially back in the day when CrossFit just started, the world didn't know about it, there are 5 boxes, he couldn't even find the right equipment. He had to attach things together to start this business. And at the same time, he had to take out a student loan. And the fact that he worked through his challenges at the time and he faced his fears, he was in school, starting a family, and he did not make excuses. And you know that when you work out in CrossFit, especially at the San Francisco CrossFit, you do not make excuses. There's an old saying that you should leap and the net will appear, and that's been so true for my life and for Kel's life. But this Supple Leopard leapt with a grounded leap. He and his wife, Juliet, leapt with a plan or a strategy. So I want you to think about, what are your fears and how are you strategizing through them? How is that helping you? And are you channeling that fear into something that serves you? And now back to the conversation. So yeah, my goal, this is my goal for the podcast and everything I do in life, from motivational speaking to teaching a blogging your passion class to everything, the podcast, is trying to inspire people to be better and do better for other people. One of the things I think that stops people is everybody knows what interests them, right? And you're a bona fide geek, and so am I, and so is Juliet. Yeah. All us A-types are. Like, I geek out over like fashion and interiors and working out and traveling and eating, right? And for me, I think the hardest thing for people to do is take that risk of, wow, that really excites me every day. I feel alive doing it, and then take action. I mean, you were in grad school and then you took a huge risk in opening this with Juliet. Juliet had this like fancy job as a lawyer making, she said, over $300,000 a year plus bonuses and all this stuff. And then you took out a grad school loan or something, right?
Yeah, they were like, oh, I see you need a private student loan this semester. And I was like, yep. Just a little help for my newborn child. So I had a newborn child, I was in a doctoral program, and I opened this gym. And I took the student loan and I bought rowing machines with it. And and like I said, you don't arrive at that overnight.
Yes.
You know, when we started this, people didn't leave physical therapy offices. I literally just put a table in the corner of the gym and started. I was like, no, I got this. But it was 1,000 little steps to get us there. And I think that's what's profound. The magic is in consistency. And one of our sayings is like, show me you can be consistent before you're heroic. And everyone leaps to to being heroic first. 30-day cleanse, makeover, yes. Boot camp, right?
And I'm like,
why don't you just get up this morning and drink a glass of water and go for a walk, and then just show me you can be consistent, right? Because it's difficult for human beings, and I think this is a greater contextual conversation around other things. It's hard to have context. You see a glimpse of news and you don't have any context to it, right? And it's really difficult to keep in mind history and where we're going and in this little soundbite. So people react to they don't have any context. And over and over again, we don't have any context. And I think that's one of the issues, is that we want to jump ahead, but we forget the fact that you're going to be 100 years old.
Yes.
So what is your plan to be 100? Because all the things we're talking about aren't sexy, they're boring, they're Wednesday I get up and I go for a walk and I eat some vegetables for breakfast. Wah, wah. Like, it's not exciting and I can't blog about it.
It's not heroic.
And I'm not, it's
how do you
dangerous.
live your
and
life?
I think that's the key, is that we have to simplify the plan for people, so we're not running from one thing to the other, and really keeping this goal on the long haul. What's it look like? What does your physical practice look like for 100 years? Well, it looks like today I showed up and I did something that made me uncomfortable.
That's a great place to start.
It is
showing up.
Well, and it's a place you just need to start.
Doing the work. Yes.
Because everyone's like, I'm going to get everything in. I've had conversations. We mentor a lot of businesses, small businesses, and people are like, okay, so I have to hire this web developer, and I'm like,
slow your roll.
Why don't you just start doing what you're doing first? Do you have any clients?
Yes.
Do you have one client? Maybe start there. Then do this other thing. And I think that's our function. We want to arrive complete without making any mistakes.
Takeaway number 3 is all about being consistent and really doing the work. In this day of social media and technology, so much information is coming at us so quickly. And of course, you have these perfectly curated squares on Instagram about everybody looking their best and feeling their best and all that. But guess what? Every success story doesn't happen overnight. And this part of the conversation I love so much because Kels talks about how there's a magic in the consistency. And there's this American Idol effect of, oh, you're going to be overnight success. Just get started and then people give up. Well, guess what? Kels didn't give up. More than 150,000 hours of training in his own box didn't give up. And I love that he gets real and truthful about his zigzag to success and working through those challenges. So remember, consistency is key. You have to keep going. So you gotta put in the work, people. There's 1,000 little steps to lead to that bigger goal, and you can never underestimate the magic that comes in consistency. And now back to the conversation. You know what's funny is that in talking with you and Juliet, getting to know you and doing research on you guys too, it's funny because everybody is all about the overnight sensation and social media and the interwebs and all that. And right, and you guys had to face so many challenges to get here.
Our favorite euphemism of that is best new artist.
Hashtag best new artist.
Best new artist, like breakout sensation. I'm like,
they've been doing it forever.
Yeah,
like Adele, she's been doing it
for grinding forever. You know, certainly we took advantage of being in the right place at the right time. And Bill Gates had 10,000 hours, right, of coding. We had 20,000 hours of coaching. Wow. Then we had the internet. When we started MobilityWOD, 2010, YouTube was a little baby. Yeah. And the iPhone didn't even record video. That's how long ago we started this. I would film and then 45 minutes upload, and that, it was just.
Yes,
and then
I remember those days.
Then when the camera started videotaping, that was the thing. And then when it videotaped and I could push to YouTube directly, boom, our world changed. And so we were lucky to be in the right place at the right time with the right tech, and then catch this bubble and have the experience. But you know, if you've known me since I was 12. I am the same guy. I'm a little fatter. I have a little less hair. I'm a little more sensitive, but I am just as deep nerd about all the technique, all the mechanics, this is what I've been doing my whole life. The fact that I was able to, like, literally, I have been doing this forever.
That's so funny. One of my favorite questions to ask people, besides the question why, which we'll get to, but what were you like when you were a little kid? For me, I loved to read, write, and talk, and my mom was like, doctor, lawyer, engineer, my Chinese mom. And I would read shampoo bottles. I'd literally be in the shower, rinse, lather, repeat, methylparaben. And my mom's like, who you talk to, shower, you know? And I read every single book, Amelia Bedelia, Where the Wild Things Are, like Where the Sidewalk Ends, everything I could get my hands on. I was obsessed with it. And I was like, well, how can I make money at doing what I love doing? And what makes me feel alive is more important than making gobs of money.
And what do I do that I'm good at? Because, you know, the idea is, hey, you know, if I had to envision a life for myself, like Juliet always points out, she's like, Kelly, I know 2 people who are actually doing what they wanted, like their dream. And our other friend is a rock star. Yeah. Right? Like that's
what band?
Rogue Wave.
Okay.
And you know, so we have this, you know, she's like, you are living like your dream.
Yes.
Like if you ask me to, like, I actually am living a greater life than I could have imagined for myself, right? Which is what we all should do, comma, you got bills and kids, and right? So, you know, I think that substitution, we talk to a lot of young physical therapists and coaches, and I'm like, look, are you obsessed with teaching beginners how to squat? Because I still am. Yeah. Like, I never get tired of it. Yeah. So everything's going to feel like a grind, but you have to really like the work.
Yes.
And so we talk to physical therapists, I'm like, why do you want to be physio? And they're like, well, I want to help people. I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, it's really nice, but you know why I like physical therapy? Because I like the work, comma, I get to help people.
Absolutely.
Right? But I really like the work. Yeah. And I think that's finding something that you're good at, that you can tolerate. Because, you know, we have plenty of musician friends who work crappy day jobs so they can be musicians. And I think that's a great model.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you suck up your whole day being miserable so that you don't have another play, then we've lost an opportunity.
Yes, you don't have an outlet for it.
You've lost somebody. So I suck up this crappy job so that I can do X.
Yes.
Gold.
You know what's so interesting is that chatting with you, and thank you for opening up about your anxiety and those fears and things like that. You made me cry the first minute because I had a little. Can I share with you my Christmas tree moment?
Yeah.
We were so poor. I say po. when you can't afford the OR is what I heard. Po. And so welfare kid.
1 kid, 10 kids, big difference.
Well, I know. Well, there wasn't 10 kids. There was 5 kids total, but then there was like grandmas and Asian folks. Everybody lives in the house.
That's right.
So my parents came here with $4 in their pockets. 10 of us crammed in a trailer park, and they were wealthy in Vietnam. We're Chinese born in Vietnam, but they're wealthy. They came here $4, don't speak English. 10 of us in a trailer. And when we finally moved to another neighborhood in a house, and it was like so janky, and I think that's why I'm interested in interiors so much, is because I was always embarrassed to have people over.
Of course you are. Of course.
And so my Christmas tree moment was I save up $20 to go to Newberry, the local store, and buy this $9.99 janky little Christmas tree. And I made little decorations, and I have a photo of it. And the year before, and I was so grateful to have that little tree that year. The year before, you think that's so sad, poor Tuan, pobrecito. The year before, I literally strung yarn on the wall to look like a Christmas tree, and the Christmas cards that we got, I hung it so that it looked like it was a real tree. And
people pay for string art on Etsy now.
Right?
Now you're like, someone
commodified
my tree. That's right.
So you fast forward many years, and I'm listening to you talk about your life and researching all the stuff that you guys have done, and you're, Supple Leopard, Kelly Starrett, whoa, woo, the people that don't know you, right? And they think overnight sensation, whatever. But really, I think you've overcome all this fear, and what this has done for me, it's really crazy. I told Juliet this, and I told many people this, is that after completing a year here, I wrote a blog. It was actually a love letter to myself. And I shared it with you guys, and you guys shared it. And it literally instantly got over 8,000 hits, because I really opened up and I was vulnerable. And I said, you know what, I'm 35, and I was this person that hated this body, this beautiful body that worked for me. I always thought I was fat, and I always thought I was ugly, because that's what I was told, and I believed in that poison.
We all come from somewhere.
Yes.
We all come from somewhere.
And so this made me realize, really, coming here working out is really, to me, it's secondary, because it's like living and breathing and eating.
No, it's practice.
Practice.
That's
but
your
it's the connections that I make every day. The realization that, for me, I think I titled that blog the spirituality of CrossFit, because, people are like, hate mail. I got so many emails from people. You're going to hurt yourself. It's a cult.
It is, right.
Yeah. And I told Juliet, I was like, damn, they look like that. I want to be a part of that cult.
A cult of people, right? So, I mean, you just have to...
It's a cultivation.
That's right. That's right. You have to, I really respect that. And what I would say is...
It's changed my life personally, professionally, spiritually.
And I don't want to diminish it, because I would say your experience is typical. Because for the first time, you're at a place where you can be vulnerable. So the physical and the mental are the same. I learn a new skill. I can go to my job and learn a new skill. Learning a new physical skill is the same thing as learning a new intellectual skill.
Yes.
Like being afraid and coming out of it, the endorphin, the increased, it's the same. And that's the problem. When we say physical practice to people, I get to go around the world and talk, and people are like, what's the perfect thing? I'm like, well, what do you like to do? Is it yoga and running? I'm like,
what makes you feel alive? Yeah.
So, but we need to see physical practice as a 24-hour experience, right? Because I've got to cultivate this thing. There's a new book, there's a great book people should read by Yuval Harari called Sapiens.
Sapiens.
And it's a short history of the human body.
It's on my list, actually.
It's really good. Yes. He's brilliant, and it'll help contextualize us. And
human beings
and just how we got here, and how and what makes us tick. And there's evolutionary biology, evolution psychology. Really, it's really beautiful. But his new book is called Homo 2.0, and it's really about where we're going to go. And I think people forget that we're going to, technology has really changed how we experience ourselves. It's not going away. So how do we come to live with it? How are our brains wired in a certain way? How, the way we eat. One of our good friends is this woman named Dr. Kate Shanahan, who is a physician, and she's a genius engineer researcher. And we met her because she revamped the nutrition for the LA Lakers. That's how we found her, right? She's that genius. And the way we consume food, we don't cook it. We don't eat meat on the stick. There's just an average person used to eat 60 kinds of vegetables in a year. If you're a ninja today, you eat 20. Wow. And you're like, 20, hey? Yeah. The average adult eats 3.
Wow.
And if you're a good adult, you eat 4 or 5. Wow. So what we're seeing is the things that made us human. I think what I like to say is to people, I'm like, hey, what happened is the environment has changed underneath us very quickly. In 20 or 30 years, we don't walk, we commute. And so subsequently, we have to think differently about the way we're living our lives. Do you need to come in here and talk about your hip range of motion? Why is that a thing? If you are at home gardening and squatting down and being at a campfire, taking a poop in the woods, having dinner in Thailand. I'm like, why is it you can't squat down? So now we've had to take this exercising physical practice fun, and we've had to make it like taking vitamins on top of an environmental experience that isn't expressing us as humans.
I tell people this all the time. The stuff that I've learned here in this box has changed my life in every single aspect. The way I sit, the way I eat, the way I look at my phone, the way when I'm washing dishes.
You have a schema.
Yes.
You have a pattern.
Yeah,
You're like,
when
I
I'm
understand how
washing
it fits.
dishes or standing in line, how's my foot position? Is my butt squeezed? And so I think in all aspects of my life, it's like I'm a changed person. I got rid of over 80% of my clothes. And speaking of evolution, so you're known as the Supple Leopard, and even this book is called Becoming a Supple Leopard. And I love this book. It's like a Bible. And I'm not reading. For me, I'm not a read it all the way through. I don't think
No.
for me.
This you just read a section.
Yeah,
read a
section by section.
Yeah. Working on 3.0. Don't worry, it's coming.
I know. Well, I'll read it too. But how did you get this name, Supple Leopard? And how did it stick? Because I know there's some drama with the publisher. I don't want to out your publisher. With the name.
In publishing now, this is known as a sort of a unicorn book, right? Because I think
you guys made it. You sprinkled the magic.
That's the number of it's expensive.
Yes.
It's a textbook,
and it's beautiful.
It's thick,
yes.
and it has a ridiculous
so much
title.
Information on how you can fix yourself.
So one of the things is that the joke was we had this friend who was in naval special warfare, and he said, "Kelly, the leopard never stretches." And I was like, Andy, the problem with that thinking is, A, you're not a leopard. And you live in a world that doesn't allow you to be sort of full normal as a human. And so the idea is this idea of kind of the leopard was that we saw some videos where literally the leopard is like crouching and some gazelles go by and then the leopard jumps 14 feet and just grabs one, right?
It's all graceful.
So I'm like, hey, why is it we can't have full physical actualization at an instant's notice? Like, I shouldn't have to activate my glutes to be able to pick something up or, why is it that I have lost the ability for my body to do what everybody should do? And it's not super normal strength or incredible flexibility, range of motion, basics. What every doctor agrees on is normal, what every pediatrician agrees on is normal. And we don't have any movement vital signs. And so coming to Supple Leopard, this idea of the leopard is like, why can't you instantaneously have access to all the things you're supposed to do? That's why we have a physical practice. That's why we do yoga. That's why we do Pilates. That's why we do kettlebells and CrossFit. So we can train these positions. Subsequently, one of my favorite movies I used to watch with my dad was Gallipoli. With Mel Gibson. Yeah. And he's this young track runner, this kid, and his coach, his uncle, is like, he's like, what are your legs? And he's like, steel springs. And he's like, how fast are you gonna run? He's like, fast as a leopard. So I have this Gallipoli and then this model, and then boom, Supple Leopard is born. And it's a ridiculous dyad of words. Literally,
awesome.
These two words have never been together in the history of the human language, unless they fell together in a Scrabble.
And so my question to you too is, I believe everybody is super different and has something to share with the world. Right?
Oh, the community at least, right?
So you are the Supple Leopard, original Supple Leopard, whatever it is, all the anxiety, all the fear, all the challenges, all the triumphs, all has created who you've evolved into this, right? So how does one stay authentic to themselves and take that and I'm sure I was talking with Juliet and in doing research, I know that this publishing company is awesome, but I'm sure that you had some pushback about that name, but it was authentic to you, and you guys were like, no, I want to stick with this.
Well, I think a couple things. One is that I have really good friends who have become really good at calling out bullshit, and my best friend is my wife, who literally, she's
a great bullshit detector.
Oh yeah, and it really helps. Like we find that it's interesting. We're talking about Laird and Gabby. Laird Hamilton has a great saying. He's like, I appreciate that you're an extraordinary man, but you're actually confirmed as a human being until you have children. Because you need to show me that you can do all of this and still change a diaper, and and that really fits into this model. I mean, Robert A. Heinlein had this great quote. It was like, a man needs to be able to set a bone, write an aria, make a delicious dinner, change a diaper, plan an invasion, learn how to fight, shoot a gun, right? Specialization is for insects. And what I'll tell you is that, having a partner who keeps me grounded, kids keep me grounded. Like you can't be all in your head and all that up. I stopped reading the comments a long time ago because they'll only make you feel ugly.
Yeah. Let your haters be your motivators is one of my favorite Ellen quotes.
What they show you is if it's constructive, they'll show you all the weak spots where you haven't made yourself clear or known. And so I'm really grateful. So when people are like, I'm like, I didn't explain that well enough, right? You know, because it helps when you think you're right and you test your model every single day for decades. But you know, the bottom line is having kids. I have to go home. My phone goes in the drawer, and now I'm making dinner. And I think, you know, at the heart of who Juliet and I were lucky is that we're still really broke raft guides, kayak instructors.
And
you know, we sleep on a truck. This weekend we're going. It's Memorial Day, and we're going camping and boating. And it just doesn't take a lot of money to wear a pair of board shorts. And you know, maybe my eggs are a little bit better now, right? I can afford a little bit nicer meat.
Truffle salt.
That's right. That's right. Like that's the difference. But otherwise, I'm really the same thing. You know, what I really like to do is be out in the woods.
It's so interesting because I met up with an old mentor of mine back in my early TV days, and he used to yell at me when I would do on-camera stuff because I was so nervous I couldn't even speak on camera. Me not being able to speak on camera for one sentence. It was a taped stand-up. And Robert Honda is now at the NBC station here in the Bay Area. Fast forward many years, he was very tough on me. So I just met up with him recently. He goes, you know, I read all your blogs, I've seen all your podcasts and all that. And he goes, you know what? I'm so proud of you because you are exactly who you are, but you've reached more of your potential. You're the same person, but you're just more of yourself.
Yeah, well, and it takes a while.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's good.
Challenges and
when I was 18,
falling.
I had my first existential crisis. Like,
Do
I'm in college, I'm in high school, I'm 18, like I haven't even cured cancer, like I haven't done anything yet. You know, I think I turned 34 and I was like, Jesus was 33. He'd already made his mark, like I'm nothing. And, you know, I feel like I was a slow cake to set. You know,
what is it, slow bloomer?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm late bloomer, but
late
like,
bloomer,
it took me a long time to coalesce who I was and what I wanted to do. You know, I had an uninspiring college education. I kayaked a ton, I skied a ton. You know,
you were practicing though.
I was, massively.
I believe you're always where you're supposed to be.
For sure.
You know?
You know, it's interesting. If you ask me now, you know, what are my anxieties for my girls? I have two really amazing girls.
Fears and anxieties. I'd love to chat about that.
I'm going to struggle watching them struggle. Because, you know,
hardest thing to do.
And I talk to kids, I'll talk to a lot of people in their 20s who are like, I don't know who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, good, welcome to 20. Welcome to 25. Yes. And in 30, you'll have a different set of things. And at 40, you'll have a different set of things. You know, and it really does, you know, one of our friends used to say the Romans had a saying that you didn't become a person until you were 40. Life began at 40 because you had gone through your ego. You had gotten a chance to, like, you know, you like the little lions roar at you, but you're like, whatever, I'm a big lion. It doesn't matter. You know, and when I'm worried about my girls is having to, because I remember the anxiety, anxiousness about who I was going to be and what I wanted to do, and how do I integrate these things, and that was my 20s.
And now, you magnify that with social media and Instagram and all this, like, hiding behind all this technology to hate.
Well, and I just think it's confusing for people. Like, there's no shortcut. You have to do the time.
Yeah. Do the time.
And that's not sexy. You know, one of our friends, Matt Vincent, is a world champion Highland Games thrower. And someone asked him, how do you get strong? And he's like, ready? Squat heavy once a week for 10 years.
Wow.
Let me know what happens.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, in 10 years, you're going to be a beast. But, you know, you just need to be consistent. So you have to work through it. And, you know, I think I don't see anyone who is doing interesting work who hasn't just gone through a startup phase where they're working at a pace and an intensity that's not sustainable, and they don't hang out with their friends, you know.
Balance
and like,
is something you learn when you're older.
But balance is this notion where, you know, we think, I'm always going to be in balance, but the pendulum is swinging through balance.
The balance is always, and
then you're swinging through, you're like, oh, look at my, everything is, woo.
Yes, when I say balance, I actually don't mean like you're never perfectly balanced. When you're spinning a top and it looks balanced, it's actually trying to still find.
That's right.
It's balance, literally.
And so, you know, what are the pieces that make this sustainable? Like, you know, and I think for me, the goals now are making sure that I'm investing in men and community and friends so that I'm not an isolated, you know, that I'm able to reach out and ask for help. And that means, you know, because
that's something that's
it's so easy to focus
yes.
on family, business, you know. And, you know, there was a time where Juliet and I, she probably mentioned this, you know, about 5 years ago, where we were both going to burn out.
Yes.
We were going to get divorced and burn out, why? Because we were just so stressed
and unaware,
and
not present,
crushed. And
yes.
well, I think we were as present as we could be, but we realized that we had moved through startup phase, and for the first time in our life, we weren't broke. I didn't drive a $2,900 Mercedes that was from 1991. Like, there was a whole bunch of things that are happening, but like I was, working my ass off, like every person does. Everyone is working hard, but wasn't, for example, taking care of, if you'd asked me 7 years ago, like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm gonna change physical therapy and I'm gonna revolutionize. And now I'm like, I'm gonna be a good husband. I want to be a killer dad. And then maybe I have some good friends. And then I hope my work is important.
Isn't that funny that when you really work on the foundation, I mean, that's a CrossFit thing too, I think, right? It's like you work on the foundation.
Basics.
You and your
Sleep,
family.
nutrition, position mechanics.
Melinda Gates said, she gave her daughter some advice. Her daughter interviewed her. It was a really cute video. You should watch it if you haven't. But her teenage daughter interviewed her and said, what's the best business advice you have for young people? And she goes, the life partner you choose.
True fact.
That is the most important business, right?
There I'm in Chile. Yes. I meet Juliet.
Rafting, right? You guys were both.
We were at the World Championships for whitewater paddling, and I remember I'm on the men's team, and they're all made up of my national slalom team friends. We all got together. Camel Cigarettes was our sponsor. They flashed to Chile, and the women are all like who's who of whitewater paddling. Like they are, like Meryl Streep's stunt double is on the team, and like they're badasses. And I remember seeing this girl. I was like, Juliet Wiscombe. Juliet Wiscombe. I'm like, that girl's cute. Hey. So I start chatting her up, and we like each other, and we're chatting, and I'm like, so what do you do? She's like, well, I'm an internet professional. And I remember like, you live in San Francisco, like in the internet? Like I lived in Durango in my truck, like, whoa. And I'm like, and what's that like? And she's like, well, I just applied to law school. And I remember being like, holy crap. Yeah. Because I am not doing, I was a kayak rep. Yeah. And you quit the national team, you sell kayaks.
Yeah. Did you think you had a chance?
Well, it took a bottle of Pisco and some dancing, and a week later seal the deal. Moves, yeah. Well, interesting though, the first time, choosing your partner, the first time Juliet saved my life. So there's a couple things going for us. Have you seen the data about how people hook up at the Olympics?
No.
So you have people
sure it's huge. Because you have all these hot looking bodies.
And they're at their apex of their sport, and the stress is off, and people are their most relaxed selves, right? No one hooks up before the Olympics, after their events. So there we are at endorphins are high, epinephrine is high, around the world, and you come through this experience together. So we have that as a start, as a seed. We like each other. She is just wicked smart, funny. And during the first day of training, the river's huge. It's class 5, it's totally scary. The men, we're going down, and we'll get to the first rapid called Mundaka, which is basically the entire, imagine the river the size of the Grand Canyon, but bigger, and all the rivers going into one big terminal hole, the size of a school bus.
It looks like imminent death.
It's big. And what you don't want to do is go through the middle of it.
Yes.
And the women pull over, and my C2 partner, I race slalom on canoe, like two-man canoe, he and I are in the bow, and we're like, hey, the girls have pulled over, and the guys are like, chicks, we don't have, we're not pulling over, like those ladies are lame. And we're like, okay, but they're really good boaters. And in 2 seconds, and we had scouted from the road. So imagine you're a mile down, you're like, yeah, that looks scary, we'll go over there. Then we're there, and in 2 seconds we're offline. We float into the first lateral. It's as tall as that. And we're like, whoa, and we just barely clear it, wash into the next lateral sideways. My best friend is right across from me, and he's looking me in the eye, and I just see him reach back into this wall of green water that's 2 or 3 times, and it comes around his head, and I'm like, it's so beautiful, and then we're gonna die. So we get crushed, I come up, take a breath, and then swim into the hole. So I'm not even in the hole yet. So now I swim into the hole, I'm bouncing on the bottom of the river, tightening up my life jacket, it's pitch black and I'm being squeezed, and it's a bad place to be. And I come up and I'm like, ooh, and I'm our paddles everywhere, our raft, our $500 racing paddles are going away. And Juliet literally paddles up and she's like, come with me if you want to live.
Oh my God.
And she reaches out her paddle and she pulls me into the boat. And I remember being like, I like you, girl.
Especially with everything with your world around risk and all that.
I know. Well, literally, I was like, this girl saved me. That was the first time. So that was the first time Juliet saved me. So what's nice is I have this partner who is smarter than I am. She's a CEO. She's the most organized human being ever. The success of our businesses is Juliet's leadership and
She
organization.
really runs like the business side of it.
Running the business doesn't give enough credit. Like she's the visionary about where we need to go and what processes need to be in place and how are we going to do logistics. And she's my best friend. So we're really this lucky. Like we love to bro out together.
Yeah,
Like what we can't wait to do, and our kids go to college, is we're dropping Carolina off college. We're shutting the Sprinter van door. We're driving to Yosemite, and we're just going to read books and be dirtbags again. We're going to eat chicken and rice and broccoli again, plus health insurance.
Right?
It's so sexy.
But then you go back to your posh little place with the pool and your hot tub.
That's right. Plus health insurance.
Plus health insurance. So what has Juliet taught you about life?
Well,
And how I want to know how you guys work through that rough spot, because so many people are just like, I'm done.
Well, Juliet hung in there. Like she's like, hey, you need to go talk to someone about your family. At least I can see you're angry. I can see that, you're not dealing with anxiety.
You do the work on yourself.
Yeah. Well, then she's like, and let's go.
Yeah.
So she was right there with me.
Wow.
And so I went and go, talk to someone about my family and about just sort of the dysfunction that, my survival out of that. And then also I realized that, the number one person who created stability and took care of me was Juliet. She was the only person in my life I always could count on. Like the first person in my life.
Huge.
I had a dog who was always there, never gave up on me, who then died. And then I had Juliet. And Juliet, who's never said, hey, it's too much, I'm never going anywhere. So what's interesting, and I think partners do this a lot, you think, well, I'm married to this amazing woman or this amazing man, that's good enough, that's set. Let me go take this risk and spend all my time. And meanwhile, you become a bad partner, right? And then you take it for granted. Instead of saying, my priority is going to be this woman, because the safer and the more energy I put into here, the more freedom I have, the more
important.
And so
huge.
You've got to take care of the base. And what I'll tell you is that, 5 years ago we felt like we were working at a pace that was going to break our necks. Literally, like we're gonna fly into a mountain. And what I'll tell you is that Juliet and I now are working faster, getting more work done, working harder, but we have systems in place where we're like off and on. I can work,
which is huge.
come back.
That's huge, and that's part of that balance. That's a balance
Sustainable.
pendulum that we were talking about.
My partner is business partner's badass.
She is badass, and so are you. So speaking about now going from personal to now professional, like you've been able to touch so many amazing people, like literally touch them and heal them and teach us how to heal ourselves.
I have a list of crazy shit I've done as a physical therapist, and like be a physical therapist. They said, see the world. They said, like, remember that time you taught Barbara Walters how to squat? Oh, I do. Stuff like that. Remember the time you touched Thor's butt? Oh yeah, I remember that.
So I want to hear about your most interesting experience, but what do you make of all that, and what did you learn from being the Supple Leopard who's been able to touch all these people?
What I realize is that there are mutants. People are mutants. Their capacities are
superheroes. I tell you,
they're really mutants. And what I really am grateful for is now these, I don't get starstruck anymore because once you're behind the scenes, it feels like work. It's work to everyone, right?
You're doing the work.
They do extraordinary work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do what I do, and I'm decent at it. But what's cool is now every single time I see something new, it gives me another piece of data that's really interesting.
Yes.
That helps me to refine the model, improve my thinking. So I have what's interesting about the work that we do is that I have a schema about trying to understand human function. And it's a model about what to prioritize first and how to restore function and improve it, and everything I see fits into this model. So watching people, rock, kids, moving, development, adults, right, injury rehab, and what it means is I'm always turning the filter a little bit to get a little better focus.
Yes.
And so once you have a schema, all of a sudden you start to view the world in a certain way and you keep refining the schema. So we have this model, and then when I get a new piece of data set, it helps me understand. And what you can see is now in this complexity theory model, I've spent a lot of time realizing that we can optimize the gym and nutrition, but you're not optimizing sleep and your ability to stress and communicate and play, right? And I think that's where we're spending a lot of time to say, hey, look, this will never be what it needs to be unless we fix these things.
So the most interesting part, one of my most favorite parts about taking your class and being coached by you, aside from you're hilarious, the funny part.
I'm harsh.
Harsh, but hilarious.
I'm a dick coach, but I deliver it in love.
Yes, totally.
You sucked on that one.
Yes,
you know you can do better.
But the second thing that I love so much is that you're always like, what's intellectually interesting? And I didn't come here to be intellectually stimulating, but I realized that everything that I do, I want it to stimulate me somehow. And that's kind of like, you love risk, I love the intellectual part. And how do I make sure that I pick up my arches so that once I pick up my arches, oh, wow, my knees, my hips, everything goes into place for my snatch, right?
That's right.
And so I try to apply that to everything that I do in my life.
Be curious about it.
Yes.
And and it can't just be about blind effort. If it was just about blind effort, everyone would be the best. Like it's always about being meta aware.
Yes.
And fortunately, there's an old meme that the best athletes don't make great coaches. Mediocre good athletes make good coaches. Right? And I was a good athlete, but I wasn't the world's best.
Yeah.
Right? I was top 10 in the world, not the best in the world. And what I'll tell you is that's the distinguishment.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a mutant. I worked really hard.
Yeah.
And subsequently, applying the curiosity, being curious, being interested and engaged in whatever you're doing means that suddenly, like people say, like if you go to a conference and you check out one thing, that's great, right? That's like a trope. But the idea here is like I'm really interested in the way the world works. I'm interested in watching people, but
the interconnectedness
of
everything.
People are geniuses.
We're all connected.
One of the things that I'll get sucked into. Juliet calls it knees outing when I'm thinking about mechanics. I disappear and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, solving problems. And I love watching economy, efficiency. So I watched that 32-year-old hipster barista who is such a ninja at packing coffee and there's no or you're in Vietnam or and watching someone make papaya salad and there's something about the efficiency and economy. Like I'll just drop in. So I really appreciate older and older I get competency.
Yes.
Are you competent?
In anything that you do, making coffee, setting the table.
My plumber, I'm like, damn, you're so good.
I had an Uber driver who had, gum. He had a charger. He had bottled water. He had his little
competency.
Yes. He had this comment here, rate me here, and I'm like, competency in everything that you do. Try to be excellent at it.
Be competent.
And that's what my biggest takeaway. That's one of my biggest takeaways. And there's like fear and challenges and all that. But I couldn't do a pull-up when I got here. I could not do a pull-up. And I was just afraid that I would just, be, like whenever you go to a new place, a new gym or whatever, it's just kind of like awkward. And I just came here not thinking that I was enough. And now, after almost 5 years being here, I know that I'm enough.
Welcome to physical practice. This is why
I am enough.
When I'm like, you have to have a physical practice.
I'm like,
you have to practice.
I'm gonna suck. He's gonna yell at me. I don't belong here. That's what I keep thinking. Every time when I.
It's messy business being a human.
Yes.
We don't codify process enough. We basically like, good luck. Like, get through high school, good luck. Why do men, middle-aged white guys, middle-aged men worship their high school football days? Because the only time they were in a coached environment. It's the last time they belonged to a group of people. Last time someone supported, they had unconditional.
Absolutely.
It's the last time.
Yeah.
And I think as allegory, as model for the fact that so many people are just disconnected in this tenuous experience.
Yeah.
They don't have a practice. They don't have a root. And there was a general who literally was like, who was giving a commencement speech. He's like, you want to be extraordinary, make your bed.
I make my bed every morning.
Make your bed.
Because it just changes your day.
Well,
I feel like a slob.
You got to take care of business.
Yes.
Make your bed.
Absolutely.
And then
the basics.
It's the basics. It's not sexy.
Yes.
And it's okay that it's not sexy.
Absolutely.
You'll find transcendence somewhere else.
Yes. Speaking about sexy and connectedness, I asked Juliet these same questions, and I just wanted to see how you guys both fare on, matching up. It's not hard. Okay, and this is one of my favorite questions I hear.
The answer is Juliet told them all.
Yeah, Juliet's right. That's it. Yeah. So this answer is about superheroes, and I know I'm all about superheroes. My Go Inspire Go, my nonprofit, is all about finding superheroes so that you can to share their stories, so that you can find the superhero in you to help. And we've talked a lot about finding your power, whatever your talent, things that you're interested in. So, what is your current power, like that you really have right now? Right now, your power is
pattern recognition.
Pattern recognition. I told you about geniuses.
It's pattern recognition. Right now I'm in the peak of my ability to understand. Like I can see things now that I couldn't see 5 years ago. That's really fun.
How do you hone that though?
Practice.
One superhero.
I still coach beginners here every day.
Yeah.
Right.
And you coach me, and I'm a hot mess a lot of times.
I practice. Like you know what I do? I coach.
Yeah.
Like that's what I am. If you sit down with me on the airplane and be like, I'm a teacher.
Yep.
Like, what do you teach? I teach movement.
Yeah.
I teach basics.
Yeah. Love that. What one superhero power you wish you had?
I wish I could be better organized. You know,
but you have your sidekick, superhero.
Google. I have Google Calendar.
Yes.
And that is my
secret
weapon.
I love Google.
It's not on the calendar. It doesn't exist. And I think this is really important. You know, if you know, it's so easy to say it, but putting it down makes it real.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I tell people that, write it down. It manifests. It's real.
It's not only that, but if it's on the calendar, you then have to be like, yeah, I'm not doing it, right? Yes. So it's there. So I live on the calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist.
What are your daily rituals? I know that Juliet already talked about how you walk the girls to school and it's become a whole club. That's so adorable and awesome.
Yeah, that's good. I try to get hot once a day, try to get cold once a day, either sauna or we have an ice tank.
Okay.
I love coffee, love it, but I don't drink it all day long. So I have a cup of coffee in the morning, I'm done. A ritual, I think, is, you know, I became really interested in breathing and some of these mechanical breathing practices, and that's been really transformative, and in ways that I had no idea.
Huge, yes.
So not just like meditation breathing, but like it opened doors into understanding a lot more. So the thing that I really like to do is I like to be a student. I like to start over again.
Student of life, me too.
Well,
I'm always learning.
I don't mind being a beginner, and this is really important. Imagine you're the best in what you do. Now imagine everywhere you go, you're the worst. Yeah. I am the worst everywhere I go. I'm the worst baseball player, I'm the worst football player, I'm the worst weightlifter, I'm the worst swimmer, I'm the worst runner. I'm the worst I am the worst in the room because I'm around all these mutants. Yeah. And so I'm like, what are we doing today? And I can suck it up with the best of them. You know, like Laird Hamilton's like, we're going body surfing. I'm like, great. I suck at body surfing, Laird. Next to Laird Hamilton, right? It doesn't matter how good you are. So
world-class surfer.
It really has been great to get my senior coach friends. I'm in a coaching nerd group who are always sending things to each other and talking. What do you think about this? And hey, and we have a kind of an idea that when we're together, someone will program the workout and you do it and you shut the hell up.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because a lot of times coaches don't want to look bad in front of each other. Yeah. We can't wait to look bad in front of each other because it's so easy.
When I'm working out here, I never look at, they're lifting more weights, whatever. I'm just focusing on my form and what I can lift that day.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I'm never motivated by wanting to beat someone else. That worked for me one time in college. There was this, as a sophomore, I think, I was in this very high level senior class, biology of the cancer cell. We snuck in and there's another sophomore in there and she was the most snooty, stuck up bee of all time. And she just viewed herself as the intellectual and I was the meathead, and all I did was study to crush her. And that worked really well for me, but otherwise, besides that one time, I'm always motivated by people achieving. Like I'm like, wow, if that person did it, I can do it.
Yeah, me too.
So when I'm in a room full of people going fast, I'm like, wow, I can go faster. I don't have the need to beat anyone.
That's why I love being around you and Juliet so much, because I always feel like I am better, smarter, trying to challenge myself to think better, be smarter, be stronger.
Welcome to the community, right?
Absolutely. So moving through this, pet peeve.
Not being kind. I hate that.
Me too.
I hate that.
Me too.
And you know, how you treat one person is how you treat everyone.
Yeah, everybody. Like from somebody that's a waiter, janitor, to anybody.
Like, yes, I want my kids to be talented or kind, I'll choose kind.
Likewise, love that. Failure means?
Not doing what you know you can do. You know?
Incompetence.
Just like choosing, to be
less than.
Yeah, I think we all, like, there's some notion that we all are going to be rich and successful, and we all can live good lives.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things that's happening as modern human beings is we've sort of solved disease. Don't get me wrong, people still get sick, but real serious disease, real serious famine, real serious wars, those are political issues now. And now we're on to the next thing, like, should I be happy all the time? No. It's not your right to be happy all the time. You're not wired that way. Yes. You wouldn't evolve. You know, so I shouldn't always be feeling pleasure, or I shouldn't always be consistently happy. You know.
My regret. Do you have any?
It took me a long time to wake up. What I hope for my kids is that they are more complete human beings. Like I realized where I was hamstrung by my parents, and my parents did the best they could because they're a product of a system, But with the experiences around my children and the people they get to rub in with and the life they have, I have high expectations that they're going to be conscious at a much earlier age than I was.
Love that. That's huge. That's one of the biggest, I think, life lessons you can teach
Well,
a
and,
kid.
you know, and I see Georgia she really advocates for the underdog.
Georgia, your older daughter.
You know, she is kind and competent.
Yeah, she's
and
adorable.
I think she's going to be twice the human being I was. And I don't mean financially, I don't mean professionally, like twice the human being. Because that's my expectation.
Kindness. Yes, and they're very kind kids. I love them. I'm happiest or most joy-filled when?
I'm on the beach with my family.
And Juliet, speaking of family, Juliet is?
The lioness. She is just, you know, I really, you know, you get a glimpse of, play what if. Like, if I didn't meet Juliet, like, I'd be living in a truck, you know, down by the river. You know, it would have taken me even longer to wake up, you know, even though. So, I feel like there's this notion that success is always an individual phenomenon. It's the lone man. We've told ourselves this is Ayn Rand, Fountainhead, like the soul genius. That's all bullshit. It's always a couplet. It's always a dyad. You're going to see that there's always a group of people getting it done. And I'm just lucky that this person I have is smarter and more talented than I am.
You guys are always, to me, like I tell people, they're like the Incredibles. You know, the Pixar cartoon.
Juliet's incredible. I'm the fat bald, out of shape, Mr. Incredible.
What do you make of all this? Like, what is the meaning to this whole adventure that you, Juliet, called life?
A unicorn. It's extraordinary. We have a better life than we have deserved to have. Yes. I think everyone deserves to be content.
Yes.
We just happen to stumble into the work that we really like, and Juliet's really good at it, and we're just getting started. That's the thing is, I think we've just finally come through our beginner phase. Wait to see what we have up our sleeves. We have.
I can't wait. That's another podcast.
We're still working.
Another podcast.
We haven't stopped. We're just getting going.
And that's why I'm doing this. And thank you for talking with me, connecting with me. I just want people to feel that aliveness that we feel, like this unicorn magic, whatever you want to call it. You know?
Well, right? It turns out I ate some breakfast. I went for a walk, right?
Yes.
I controlled, and then
I did the same thing.
It does. Now it's all fair game.
Yeah.
Whatever happens the rest of the day, I'm like, I've already checked the box.
My truth is?
I feel like I wasted a lot of time. And I don't have time to waste anymore. There's not enough time.
I feel like that too, and I feel like I'm cutting out a lot of fat, like relationships with things that don't serve me.
Well, I think part of that, I have I don't know if Joe told you, I have a really good memory, like freakish memory.
Yes.
You're photographic.
Yeah.
And that serves me really well, but I also remember how I felt during phases of my life.
Yes.
And I don't want to feel that way again. That feels
beautiful.
Terrible.
Yeah. You don't want to have those regrets.
I don't feel like I have enough time.
Yeah,
we're going to run out of time.
Absolutely. What are you daring other people watching, listening to do? There's one thing you could dare them.
Right now, I say it's being vulnerable, asking for help,
It's huge.
With, Juliet and I do this thing, she talked about the feelings meeting.
Yeah.
So,
the feelings what?
Feelings meeting.
No.
Once a week we go on a date, and it's on the calendar, it says feelings meeting.
Oh my God, I love
And what
this.
we have done is we have, because we're business partners and family partners, and we have all these other things. But once a week we go on a date, we sit down, and we're like, okay, talk about your feelings.
I love this.
So we have scheduled a time.
Love this.
It's a formal time where we can talk about feelings, which means it doesn't happen at 10 o'clock at night when we're both exhausted. We'll wait for the feelings meeting.
Yes.
So you just store some shit up if you need to do it.
Love this.
A lot of times we get to the feelings meeting, we have nothing to talk about.
Oh my God.
But what we do is we've codified a time where we can really talk about the gritty, what's working. Hey, I noticed that we're doing this with our kids, or what do you think? This isn't working. But by putting it on the calendar, feelings meeting, it may every time that comes, I'm like, oh man, today's the feelings meeting. And it's vital.
Thank you for sharing your feelings with me, and this has been dope, amazing. Yes.
I may be dumb, but I can lift heavy things.
I'm so glad I walked through those doors. I tell you, I've changed.
Too, I know.
I've changed so much. So much.
All of us. Yes. This is 12 years I've been doing this. 12 years, and we're we continue to be.
But why do I still suck at
let me know when you work it out.
Yeah, I know, right? Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like what you see, please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at TruthDare Talk. Trust your truth. I dare you.